Hello everyone and welcome back to another Star Wars figure review. Today we're taking a look at another figure from the vintage collection. Once again, a great addition to the line. Like with ARC Trooper 5s that I gave you a look at in my last review, this is a character that is more commonly associated with the Clone Wars animated series. However, like the recent Black Series 6-inch version of this character, this particular figure is based on his appearance in Galaxy's Edge. It is of course none other than everyone's favourite Weequay pirate, Hondo Ohnaka, and this is a great figure, one that I definitely recommend picking up. It is a straight repack of the Hondo figure that was included with the recent Smuggler's Run Millennium Falcon. However, for collectors such as myself who didn't pick up the Falcon, this is a great way to add this figure to your collection. Obviously Hasbro recognised the fact that this was probably a figure that most collectors were going to want, and not everyone was going to have either the space or the funds to pick up the Millennium Falcon. So this is a great addition to the collection once again. As always, if you want to pick up this figure for yourself, there's a link down below in the video description where you can do so, and at the time of filming this review he is in stock now and available to buy at Star Action Figures. Now, there are some differences and some similarities between this figure and the Black Series figure that I want to touch base on throughout this review, but before we do that, we are going to take a look, as always, at the packaging that he comes in. Once again, we do get a stunning vintage card back for this figure. What I really like about this one is the image on the card itself, which is obviously based on the animatronic that we see at Galaxy's Edge in the Smuggler's Run ride. I do prefer it when these vintage card backs have photographs on the cards as opposed to photoshopped mock-ups, as they just feel a little bit more authentic, a little bit more vintage in their appearance. And this card back definitely achieves that. The image itself is not a photograph, it is an artist's sort of impression or rendition of the animatronic itself. Obviously there's been some image manipulation applied there, but it still looks very cool. The colours are nice and dull, and it looks really nice, as you can see, really retro in its appearance. Obviously at the top there you've got the generic Star Wars logo. I would have preferred it if Hasbro had have created a Galaxy's Edge specific card for this figure. However, because this interpretation of the character hasn't yet appeared in any live action or animated Star Wars media, be it movies or TV, obviously the Star Wars card, the generic Star Wars card, is appropriate. They did a very similar thing for Dr. Aphra when she was released in the vintage collection, so this is fine and it keeps that consistency going. Down in the bottom corner you've got the Kenner logo, and of course the name pill and bubble where the figure would sit. On the back of the card we do have some other figures available in the vintage collection. As I mentioned, gave you a look at ARC Trooper 5s in my last review, and we'll be taking a look at Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight in my next video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Hasbro have been releasing some great vintage collection figures recently, so it's really nice to see as somewhat semi-focus back on 3 3/4 inch. Black Series tends to be the real focus of Hasbro at the moment, but it's nice to see figures such as this available in the line. So very cool indeed, and I'll once again be giving you a look at some of these figures soon. So great vintage card once again. Not particularly a card that I was overly fussed about adding to the carded collection. I was much more interested in the contents of the packaging. So with that said, let's take a look at the figure that we get inside. And here he is, once again a stunning entry into the vintage collection. This is a great figure in its own right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the review, he does share some similarities and some glaring differences between the vintage and 6-inch Black Series figure. The main difference that you'll notice is the colour palette. This particular figure is much brighter in its appearance. The coat that Hondo is wearing has a much more vibrant red colour going on, as opposed to the almost black coat that the Black Series figure had. The colour palette itself is just again much more vibrant, much brighter than the Black Series version. And the same can be said for the skin tone, the colour of the helmet as well. It's just a much brighter figure, and in my opinion it's a little bit more accurate to the animatronic that we see at Galaxy's Edge, in the sense that the colours much more closely resemble the animatronic itself. The Black Series 6-inch figure was fine, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of that figure, but the colours on it were just a little bit too dark for my liking. And so to see that colour palette refreshed with this figure is a welcome addition, and I really like it. In terms of similarities, you'll notice that the sculpt is very similar. The proportions are identical, the position of the jacket, all that sort of stuff. It's a very similar figure in construction terms. So it does make me wonder whether or not Hasbro have used the same digital model to create both the Black Series and Vintage Collection figures, and obviously just scaled it down for the 3 3/4 inch release. Whether that's something they do or not, I'm not entirely sure, but the figures do seem very similar in my opinion. One other notable difference that I want to point out, and I don't know whether anyone else will have noticed this, is the fact that the Black Series figure is left-handed, in the sense that the trigger finger that the figure has to hold the blaster is located on the left hand as opposed to the right hand like it is here with the vintage release. Now, again, not entirely sure whether that's accurate to the animatronic. I'm not sure whether he even has his blaster in his hand on the Smuggler's Run ride. But it's just something that I found quite interesting. Obviously the blaster pistol that's included with the figure is very similar to the one included with Rogue One's director Krennic, who was also a left-handed character. So whether or not that is a left-handed blaster and Hasbro have just skipped over that for this release, I'm not entirely sure. But again, it's something just worth pointing out if you hadn't noticed it already. In terms of the overall figure though, he is really well sculpted, really nicely detailed, and really well painted. There's a nice light brush of weathering on the face just to bring out some of that detail in the wrinkles and all that sort of stuff. Really nice hint of realism there. And of course you've got Hondo's trademark glasses and smirk going on. He does of course feature a really cool shell-like helmet, and he does have those pirate dreadlocks going on as well. Again, like the Black Series version, very Jack Sparrow-esque in his appearance, which I absolutely love. Certainly a great character is Hondo. The jacket is very nicely sculpted as well. You've got this sort of fake leather sculpted texture going on in the jacket itself, with some highlights towards the shoulders there. Some gold plating on the shoulders, nice detail on the gauntlets and the gloves, really nice glossy boots, and of course a holster for the blaster pistol that's included. In terms of articulation, this guy is packed to the brim. He comes with a great amount of posability. He's definitely on par with the Black Series release in that respect. We do get a ball joint at the head with this guy, and once again we have a dumbbell joint here. So the top of the head and the base of the neck are both jointed, so you get a nice fluid range of movement, and the dreadlocks don't get in the way, which is always good. We also have hinges at the shoulders, elbows, and at the wrists. There's a ball joint there, as you can see, at the torso. Hinges at the hips that are slightly restricted by the jacket, but nothing too major. We also have swivel cuts at the upper thigh, which is a welcome addition, something we don't tend to see that often on Vintage Collection or 3 3/4 inch figures. There's also a hinge at the knee and a hinge and a rocker at the ankle. So again, great articulation, very similar to the Black Series figure, which is really good. Great to see super articulation return to the 3 3/4 inch line, I've got to say. So again, ticks all the boxes in terms of paint, detail and articulation, and just all round is a very cool figure. Now he does have a little bit of an issue standing up. Luckily he's staying put, but yeah, this figure would be much better placed on a display stand if you're going to stand him up on a shelf, because I've noticed a couple of times when I've tried to stand him on a flat surface he does topple over. So just be aware of that if you do pick this figure up for yourself. So that is going to do it for this review on Hondo Ohnaka from the Vintage Collection 3 3/4 inch line. Hopefully this means that a lot more Galaxy's Edge characters will find their way into the Vintage Collection, and in the meantime, again, this is definitely a figure I'd recommend picking up. So until my next review, I hope you've enjoyed this one, And until next time, keep collecting, and may the force be with you.